The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Die-hard Pompey supporter Kieron McVeigh contacts Pompey Sound from his home in China. Kieron, a teacher of English as a foreign language and enthusiastic seven-a-side player in a serious local league, followed Pompey on his PC. But this season watches the game more often in the comfort of one of the countless sports bars in China, showing Premier League and Championship games. He has messaged us his 10-point plan for Pompey's survival. 10. Buy more Ebo Adams. 10 of him and we can be on the beach in 3 games. 9. If it's a 12:30 kickoff, open the bars around Fratton Park at 8 in the morning. 8. Slip the ref a double-headed coin. Kicking into the Milton end first half is the first big cheer of the game. 7. Round up the handful of misery guts keyboard warriors, give them a red and white scarf and tell them to keep out and stay out. 6. Make the players watch The Great Escape followed by Zulu every afternoon after training, prime examples of courage in adversity. 5. Make the players grow Marlon Pack beards and get his tats too. Why hasn't he got the VC yet? 4. Rent Michael Eisner a huge penthouse apartment overlooking Gun Wharf, like Milan Mandaric did. And keep him here till season end so he can smell the fear and drink the joy. 3. Put a lollipop lady on the 2-foot alleyway next to the main entrance. Is it still the nightmare bottleneck it always was? 2. Put misleading signs up backstage for the opposition, such as, pitch, this way, pointing to the exit. Fratton Park is a known maze behind the scenes, let's mess with the opposition. 1. Score more goals, concede less. That's it.
At least one championship club has raised concerns over a potential conflict of interest involving Northern Ireland and Blackburn Rovers manager Michael O'Neill. BBC Radio Oxford understands Oxford United are one of those uncomfortable with a situation whereby 4 of their players could be called on for an international friendly by the manager of another side fighting for championship survival. Northern Ireland face Wales on Tuesday with Oxford's Jamie Donnelly, Ciaran Brown, Brodie Spencer and Jamie McDonnell all part of the squad. Blackburn, 19th in the Championship, are 4 points above the 23rd placed U's in the table. Portsmouth defender Terry Devlin and West Brom midfielder Isaac Price are also in the Northern Ireland squad. Pompey are 1 point above the drop zone, while the Baggies are 4 points clear of the bottom 3. Uncapped Blackburn defender Tom Atchison is the sole Rovers player picked by O'Neill. The EFL confirmed they had been contacted by 1 or more clubs regarding the matter, but it was not an issue that would be dealt with by them. They added international call-up and release policy was governed by FIFA, and the relevant national association and team and squad selection decisions were made independently by each national association manager. They said they would expect all selection decisions to be taken with integrity and in a way that does not bring the game into disrepute.
Wow, well done, the EFL. That's a classic example of PTB, passing the buck. It's nothing to do with us. You'll have to tell FIFA about it because they don't want to get involved. Because it's labyrinthine, that's to say it's a maze, it's a moral maze. Who can tell? Is he likely to send his players out there telling them that they've got to go for every 50-50? They've got to risk a broken leg out there because they want to win in this friendly against Wales so much, but that their international futures depend on the performance that they give, and as a consequence they return to their clubs. All these players who are involved with all these players from clubs which are involved in the relegation battle from the Championship, and there's plenty of them, are they going to return to their clubs bruised and battered because they played on Tuesday night in a little friendly against Wales? It doesn't seem very likely, but what you can glean from this is this, and it's, I think, valuable. It is that Oxford United are worried. OK, they've got 4 players who might be involved. We've only got 1. The other teams, I think, have only got 1 each. So Oxford United have a greater stake in this friendly, Northern Ireland versus Wales, than any of the other relegation candidates. However, surely it's going to play such a minimal part in the overall outcome at the end of the season, that A, it's an example of Oxford getting the jitters, and B, we know that our manager, John Messino, will not be making waves about this because he is a consummate diplomat. He knows and understands the corridors of power at the Football Association, and he knows that nothing is going to happen. because nothing will happen. I'll tell you what, I did ask our chat AI for their verdict on this. Chat, can you just repeat what you said to me a moment ago about this one?
What I previously said aligns with your conclusion. The formal stance is that selection decisions are independent, governed by FIFA rules, and expectations are integrity-based. In reality, it's unlikely that a friendly match would materially alter the relegation battle. So while Oxford might be nervous, this sort of scenario is more symbolic than decisive. It's the matches on the pitch that will determine the outcome.
Thank you. That's what artificial intelligence has to say. If you can stomach it, this is what real intelligence, if I dare pass myself off as that, has to say. And it's just to say that John Messina knows his way around the FA. He also understands the corridors of power at the EFL and also FIFA. That's why, for him, if not for Pompey, the sky's the limit.
One of Pompey's Australian recruits, Jacob Farrell, who's returned to his homeland on loan to Western Sydney Wanderers, has surprised fans and possibly himself. He's played the majority of games on loan so far at top level, not at left-back or as a full-back, but as a centre-half. It's a piece of news that's likely to be hugely welcomed by John Messina, who has a growing reputation for valuing versatility alongside conventional playing assets in his squad members. Indeed, it's possible Messina may have played a part in the positional switch, looking for added game time plus an additional dimension to his player. Wise birds watching from the wings at Fratton Park have noted that with the extent of injuries wreaking havoc with team selection, for example, Friday's opponents Norwich has 14 players out with injuries at the start of the international break, the onus lies with players who can fulfill more than one positional role. When he returns, Farrell might be more than just a challenger for Conor Ogilvy's left-back shirt, he'll be a challenger for Conor Ogilvy's emergency centre-back shirt.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it, that they might be grooming Farrell to be a player who can play in two positions, maybe more, but a full-back who can also play at centre-half. Williams, of course, over on the right, we forget about him. He played for the first part of, was it last season or this season? I can't remember. At centre-back, which is what he says is a position he can play in, as well as being a right-back. And we brought him into the club fully with that knowledge. And it was one of his many credentials that he brought. And we now know that Conor Ogilvy, besides being, we say, one of the best left-backs in the Championship, surely, is also an extremely competent centre-back. So we now have, in that versatility, all sorts of options for covering for positions where players are injured, and we might not have a specialist right back. And back in the good old days, if your right back was injured and your reserve right back was injured, you were, not to put it mildly, screwed. But what John Messina was working towards is a situation whereby he has at his disposal a bunch of players who can play in a number of positions, thus covering himself, or at least covering himself as best he can, against the injuries, the numerous injuries, the unacceptable level of injuries that are taking place and damaging the campaigns of so many sides, particularly in the Championship. We still don't know why. In the not too distant future, it might be obvious, but at the moment we don't know why, and therefore we don't know what to do about it to prevent it happening. But what we can do is to cover for it, to have contingency for it, and it looks as though perhaps John Messina has come up with a scheme whereby Pompey may well pretty soon have contingency for it, which is having a bunch of players, perhaps a dozen out of the 25 or 30 in the squad, who can play in more than one position, possibly even 3 or 4 positions. If that's the case, good thinking, guys.